Yeah, sorry. So the basic concept of painting is actually that what we're trying to achieve here is realistic flower, right? So there is nothing as realistic. Whenever I like show somebody my paintings, they're like, oh my god, the details. But I know the trick, and I'm going to tell you the trick. So whenever you zoom, if I zoom into this photograph, if I really like, I'm just going to take a screenshot. For example, if I take a screenshot here and just open the next photo and zoom into it more, it just becomes like, just random colors. It becomes abstract. So every realistic thing is actually abstract. There's nothing such as details or how intricate the work is. It's just the mind game that we're playing, we artists. So we just trick you guys to see and make them look like details. So what we here are going to do is we're going to look at the abstract things, like the shadows, the colors. We're just gonna follow where the colors are. So I'm gonna, the base color of this flower is red and pink. So I'm going to take out red and pink on my palette. So if you're using watercolor tubes, just take out scarlet, red, and crimson. So I have my crimson color here. I'm going to also show you what I'm mixing. So let's just start off with this petal, okay? I am just going to dip my brush into the water, and I'm going to take a little bit of crimson first. And now just observe, if you observe this petal, you're going to see that there are dark portions here, then there is a dark portion here, and then there are dark portions slightly here. Yeah, so there's some dark here, and dark here. So if we start off by making like a dark color, if you've seen the color theory video, what I did there was I mixed in green, right, which was the complementary colors. That's the same thing I'm going to do here to make like a brownish color. It actually became purple because this is like a pinkish green, but let me just add in more green. So now this is up to you how you observe the shadows, the light parts, the dark parts, and everything. So I saw the darkest ones here. So I'm just going to start off by making painting the dark areas first. I'm just putting some light strokes like this. All right, just wash off your brush once and maybe wipe it off on a rag or something. And now I'm just going to use the pink paint that I have, the crimson. And I'm going to make some strokes coming out of this dark paint. उससे what is going to happen is कि जो darkness है that is also going to get मतलब वो भी show होगी, and the pink, उस जो pink की value है that will also be visible. So we're just starting off by laying out the darkest ones. So मुझे जैसी भी lines दिख रही है, I'm just making curved lines to define the petal for me. I'm just going to maybe make the dark area that I see here. These are very loose strokes. I'm just going to take a little bit of scarlet red also, because I see a little bit of scarlet red here. This way the texture, so we're basically playing with both wet and dry brush techniques. So isse there'll be like a certain texture that will be shown. So I am just going to put some red paint here, I'm just doing the same thing on the whole petal. We are going to revisit it later on if we think there's something missing, but for now let's just put down the color values for us to understand how the petal actually looks like, and then later on we can fix it if there's any mistake. I'm just going to take some crimson. And there's like a slight outline, you can say, or something like a light dropping on the petal. And then there's a sudden darkness. So I'm also going to do that. So this is how I'm observing the details. I'm observing the slightest of the details where, you know, there is a light portion here and a dark portion here. So I'm just going to I'm going to repeat the same thing on the whole petal. I just see, you know, there is more pink in the center of the petal, the center area. And here on the right and the left, there is more of a red color. So I'm just going to concentrate on that. Okay, now what I'm doing, I washed off my brush properly and I'm just using the water to spread the paint out and then make the strokes like this. इससे भी a very good texture comes on and it looks really good. Keep wiping off your brush on the rag if you think there's too much water. I'm just going to use a little dark red brownish color that we created. I'm going to mix in a little bit of red to create like a medium tone. And then I am going to put it here. Because यहाँ पे there's like not really a very dark portion of the petal, but there's like a medium-ish dark portion. Okay, now I see here there's like a little kind of like a violetish but still pinkish color. So to create that, I'm going to take a little bit of blue. You can take Prussian blue or cobalt blue, whatever you like. Both are just going to work this almost the same. And then you can mix in some crimson to make purple. And then I'm giving the shadows or the details here. I'm going to mix in a little bit of more pink with the color because it's not that purple. Okay, so I see more of reds and dark reds here. So I'm just going to repeat the same technique. And I am just going to make and paint the portions that I see. It's literally based on your observation and how well you can observe, and then you will be able to paint really good. I just washed off my brush and now I'm just trying to blend all the colors out with the brush so that there's no, like, you know, a very different looking area. The whole petal is blended into each other. I mean all the parts of the petal. I'm just using some more color if necessary. But I'm just going to try and blend this out without color now so that later on if I have to fix it, Or if I come back on this petal, then I can fix it with more dark tones because it's already enough dark and I don't think we need more. So this is also a very important aspect while you need to look at while you're painting, is that you need to create a balance for your own eye. You don't always have to go with the reference. It's just take the literal meaning of the word reference. It's just for your reference. So you don't have to copy it exactly the same. You just use it for your understanding and you paint however the way you like it. So the flower you probably saw in the poster of my workshop, it's not going to be the same as the one I'm painting right now. I added more purple here. I didn't use much purple in that flower. So it's the same. It's going to be different. Like, I know the techniques I'm using are the same, but still it's going to be slightly different. So not everything is going to turn out the same way every single time. So it's upon you how you paint it. So I'm just going to use a little more red here. Took a little bit of crimson as well because I saw a little pinkish area there. So I'm just going to all right, so I'm just going to do the same thing on this petal. So I'm going to start off with the dark portion. So if you look at this petal, so we see the dark portions here, and there are some purple parts here, and the rest is pink, which is crimson. So I'm going to start off with the dark parts. I'm just gonna make like free strokes to just identify the darkest parts for me. And then I'm gonna carry it on with the red like we did for the previous petal as well. So if you saw the video of the watercolor basics that I sent you, a very important thing that I said was to not fear the medium. So if right now you're thinking that your painting is becoming a little patchy, don't worry. You can do it again some other day. You can revisit this recording, and you can just do anything with it, and you can redo it, and just don't fear the medium. Be confident in every stroke that you put down because it's your flower and it belongs to you. So it won't look the same as mine. So will have your own style in it, your own authenticity, as we can say. Just like if we look at a chef, um, there are a lot of people who make samosa, but not every samosa tastes the same, even though its recipe is the same, because everyone has a different style of cooking. It's the same with the painting as well. You'll have a different style of painting, even though the techniques are same, the medium are same, the brushes are same. So concentrate on creating what you like rather than aiming for something to be like someone, or to be to make something like someone. Okay, so I see some dark portions here, so I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to paint those parts. And then I'm also going to take some purple. like a pinkish purple and put this here. So I'm using a little more red now. And see, I'm putting very, very free strokes and I'm trusting myself. It's very important to trust yourself while making anything. Only then you'll, have a good outcome or an outcome that you like. I read this book once by Hegart. I don't remember, but the title was Hegarty on Creativity. And in one of the chapters, he actually told this, and that is why, that is like after reading that chapter, I have started following this ideology that not to fear rejection or, even like not considering the emotion fear at all. So, at least while painting. So that is what I've started to consider a lot while painting is that I don't fear painting anymore. कि हाँ ठीक है ना खराब हो गई तो हो गई, we can do it again. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Was that Praneeth? You make cakes, right? So
Yeah, that was me.
so you also might like mess up some icing or some fondant
Exactly.
sometime.
Exactly. I can relate to this a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm just using the water to paint literally. I am just using the paint. I actually dripped some extra paint here. So I'm taking up that paint with a clean brush and I'm painting it here. So I'm using extra paint. This is how you fix your mistakes or anything. You just okay, I'm going to go and start with the pollen grain part. Okay, so there's a very saturated red here, and there are some light parts on the outline of the whatever this pollen grain thing is. So I'm going to start off like that only. I'm going to mix in a little bit of red. I'm going to take some red and I'm going to take some crimson and I'm going to mix both of them, and that's going to create like more like a very saturated red for us to paint. So I'm just going to create there is a very harsh shadow here. So I'm just gonna make these. Okay, now to make this very, light outline, I'm just gonna wash off my brush completely. And I am just going to use the water to paint. I'm going to take my brush slowly on just the edge of the line that I've created to blend these parts out. Okay, so here this is very important. You need to use, the right amount of water to make this blend properly. Otherwise, you might end up in like a patch. But that's okay too. You can still solve that, but let's not get there only. And let's save ourselves before reaching that position. So I didn't use more water. I am literally just using the water that is already in my brush. I'm just going to blend it out. Okay, so I forgot to make this little part of the petal. This is like a very, very small part. I don't know if you've observed or not. This little part here. So I'm just gonna make that. Like the bottom of it is very pinkish, but the top is very light. It's like almost white. All right, so this pollen grain part. This portion, it's actually not visible like the style. It's not visible here, but I just made it like a very light pink so that later on I'm just gonna make these lines of the pollen grains on top of it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make the top 4 thingies, whatever these are called, this portion. All right, so what I did was I just painted it with like a dark red, and then I made like small dots because it's like a very intricate detail here, which is thoda hard to achieve, but it is not impossible, so you'll be able to do it. I'm just gonna move my brush on top of this to blend this out. It's okay if it goes out of the little stick right now, whatever this is. We're just going to paint the petal baad mein, and when we paint the petal on the back, then it will just like come out because we'll be painting very dark color with very dark colors here because it is dark on the back of the pollen grain, these areas. Okay, I'm just going to start off. I'm leaving these yellow pollen grains aside for right now because when we're going to paint this petal, I'm going to paint them at that point because then that will be easier. All right, I am just going to make some more dark red for myself by mixing crimson and some sap green. Okay, so I have my dark red here, and the darkest portions in this petal, it's a lot of dark portions here. So it's basically this area and this area, and there is also this area which is exactly behind the pollen grains. So while we're making the petals, the pollen grain is actually going to come out itself. So we're going to leave space for this. So I'm just going to make strokes. I've also seen people holding brushes like this because it's like you're just like literally into the painting and painting like this with like holding your brush like this. Don't hold your brushes like this. Hold them from the back because that gives you more freedom to paint, and you can actually paint free like good strokes. If you like hold your brush like this, then you're like very scared, and your speed also decreases while painting. So
What about when you got to really do details? That time, wouldn't you want to hold the brush closer?
yeah, it's like if I am using like if I'm using like a thinner brush, which is like a 000 brush,
Yeah,
then maybe like
exactly.
it's like very, very intricate details.
Yeah.
So if I'll be making these, then I might hold them, hold the brush here.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. So smaller brush, then you can go closer. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Because obviously with a bigger brush, you're making like big strokes.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Actually, with watercolors, mostly I've seen people, like, even I haven't switched my brush from the like past whatever minutes we've been painting. So with watercolors, you can actually just make the whole painting how intricate or whatever it is with the single brush. So I'm using this 4 number brush, and I think I'll be doing the same with this one. So it's just, changing distances on every level of intricacy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
Another thing with the distance is that you can actually go on, if I'm using like a 4 number brush, I can make it like a 000 brush by applying less pressure. So if I need to make like a very thin stroke, I'll like apply very less pressure, and but if I'm holding it like this, I'll have to like apply more pressure, or उससे पतली stroke कम ही बनती है. So it's subjective. I'm just giving tips. Okay. So I'm going to continue making these strokes. And there's a little dark portion behind this petal. Just gonna make that. Okay, so while I'm making the strokes, I'm actually going, like I've already made some strokes here which are apparently wet. So I'm making another wet stroke on top of it. So everything just gets blended automatically. So you don't have to really worry about something's not getting blended, or, any that kind of problem. Painting in one direction of the petal, which is like, the petals are actually, if I just draw it out here, if we look at the flower, the directions of the petals is actually going something like this. So you have to paint in this direction, like something like this kind of, it looks like a firework though, but this direction, outwards direction. So if you don't go, if you start painting horizontally and making horizontal strokes, that's when the depth of your flower might not look much, 3D and realistic. So to achieve that, just move your strokes in one direction. All right, so I accidentally put a lot of dark red paint that we made here. So to every time, like, you make this kind of mistake, to pick up the paint, you wash off your brush completely, and then you wipe it off on your rag, and then you just slowly, drag your brush and then pick up the paint and then wash it off and then wipe it off. I use the rag a lot. I just keep wiping off my brush every second. I wipe it off from the edge of the bowl first, and then I use the rag so that there's no more water to create a patch in the painting. All right, so there's a little purple here on this part of the petal. So I'm just going to put my brush into the purple paint that we made. And I'm just going to put it on the dark portions first, and then I'm just going to wash off my brush and then use the water to paint and the paint that is already on the paper. I'm just going to wash it off now, clean it with my rag, and I just took a little bit of red to make like a muddy purple because it's not very vibrant purple. It's more of a muddy purple. Just took a little bit. I added a little bit of red. On the portions where I've used a lot of water, I'm just making some lines so that the texture of the flower doesn't disappear, because we also need the texture to create like a little 3D realistic flower. All right, so for example, here I have a little, light portions. So I actually accidentally made it more dark than it actually should be. So I'm going to pick up the paint, just like I told you, and create the light portion. And then to fix this patch, I'm just going to make some strokes on top of it. I'm just going off with a clean brush on top and just making those strokes. It's just going to create more texture and blend the purple in as well into the pink, so that the purple part doesn't look really very different from the whole petal. Okay, so the next petal I'm going to do is this, because apparently this is the most, I think this is the most difficult petals of all, because this has the pollen grain part here. So I'm just going to do this one first and then we'll do this one. So I'm going to start off like we've been doing for all the petals till now, is to identify the darkest parts and paint over them. Okay, now I'm going to start off by blending in the dark parts that I've painted with the red paint. So I'm going to make strokes just like we've been doing for all the petals. And there is some red, again, there is some red and saturated pink portion here. So I'm going to make these strokes first and then wash off my brush and then use the paint already on the paper and paint for that. There are some dark portions on the edges of the petal. So there is some purple portions here as well. I'm just gonna make some purple again by mixing in some cobalt blue and crimson. Okay, let's just do the last petal. All right, so here there are some dark portions. इससे the depth of the pollen grain is going to come out because यहाँ पे it's like very light और उसके पीछे एकदम से there are like dark portions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to define the pollen grain by painting the dark portions behind it. Just do it very slowly so that you know you have to like keep the pollen grain wahan pe, like otherwise it might like get a little messed up. So you'll have to do this part slowly. All right, we're done with this and now I'm just going to continue with the strokes. And while I'm making the strokes, I am actually going to start, I'm going to keep the play, like, you know, I'm going to keep places for like all the yellow portions. वहाँ पे छोटे छोटे I'm going to keep like dots ऐसे ताकि बाद में I can, you know, just put in वहाँ पे we can make the yellow, and I can also like make like a small base for me to work on. उससे there won't be any difficulty for me to blend in the paints. So I'm just gonna take I'm just gonna continue with these strokes, and यहाँ पे there's a lot of depth and dark colors, so I'm not washing off my brush, otherwise I usually would, like we were doing with the other petals. But ये थोड़ा ज़्यादा brown हो गया, so I'm gonna put in a little bit of more pink, so that there's less of brown and there's more of like a dark red or dark pink color here. So यहाँ पे भी there's like a little dark portion, so I'm just going to paint that, wash off my brush, and then just paint the strokes. Okay, so to make the pollen grains वाला जो yellow वाला portion है, I am just going to पहले make like a light pink base. Like this, and until this portion dries, I'm going to complete the rest of the petals and then come back, revisit this. और यहाँ पे we are going to make these small thingies, whatever these are. I'm just gonna make okay, so the rest of the areas I'm just gonna paint with the water because वहाँ पे it's like more light and not really dark areas. And the edges of the petal, those are a little dark. तो वहाँ पे okay, and I'm just going to blend जो मैंने अभी यहाँ पे I made this kind of like an outline, and I'm just going to blend it in the strokes that I made earlier. Okay, I think this has dried. Now comes the yellow part. I'm going to use a little bit of yellow. I'm using cadmium yellow. You can use lemon yellow. Don't use yellow ochre because that's more of a dull yellow. So I'm just going to use cadmium yellow here. I'm just going to make small dots for the pollen grains. Abhi ye visible nahi hai, but when we add in the darker portions beneath them, they'll be more visible. Now I'm going to make more like a thicker paint क्योंकि यहाँ पे it's like काफी intricate. So if I use a lot of water, it might become, you know, काफी मतलब details चले जाएंगी. So I'm actually going to paint on the negatives rather than making, you know, these light lines. I'm going to paint on the shadow areas जहाँ पे ये नीचे हैं, उससे the lines will get created themselves. So I'm just going to make like, you know, paint on the negatives. Hold on. That's it. I'm just going to let this portion dry and then maybe revisit some areas. All right, we're done here. I'll have to, I can't fix it right now because it's very wet and it will get messier and messier and more messed up. But okay, I'll just tell you how if I end up, you know, fixing it, how I will fix it. So this portion, I am just going to, you know, there are some whites, there are some very harsh white lines here. So I'm going to take a very, very thin brush and I am going to, you know, once it has completely dried, either I'm going to make it with, you know, I can make it with a white gel pen or a white pencil, or I am actually going to just, you know, go on and just make these lines to make it look more visible. And I can also add more light values to this if it's too dark. Otherwise, we're done here. We're done with the flower. The basic. So, do we have any doubts, guys? We are actually done.
It's looking so pretty.
Thank you. Any doubts? Or do you want to know something else? Taz, my painting is a mess. You can show your painting. We can, you know, we still have half an hour on with us. So we can maybe try and fix the paintings that you guys have ruined.
Hey, the painting.
Is it a moisture monster? It is. Okay. So, एक second. I'll just spotlight it, and I am going to, you know. अच्छा मैं आपको बताती हूँ. So what you have? Okay, you didn't finish. It's okay. You can just maybe text me later, and I'll help you out with it. All right. So what you've done here. देखो पहले तो you have used only like probably 2 or 3 colors maximum. हाँ, Taz is right. पहले तो it needs more dark shades, which is like, you know, these dark portions जो मैंने आपको बोला. And how did I make the dark? I mixed in the green with the red. तो यहाँ पे it's like very very dark tones, almost close to black. But हम black use नहीं करते, उससे painting dull हो जाती है. तो हम complementary mix करके we make the dark color. तो यहाँ पे we make the dark. और we have to go really slow. Like I love the strokes though. Strokes बिल्कुल खिल के जो कहते हैं ना आए हैं, अच्छी तरह आए हैं. You could have, you know, made them better and use more colors basically. Problem यही है because even though अगर देखो your flower is more of a red dominated flower. हमारा जो reference है और जो मैंने flower बनाया है, that is more pink dominated flower. But even though yours is red, that doesn't matter. But जो depth है वो नहीं आ रही है, and that it still can be fixed. So what you do is यहाँ वाले areas और जैसे ये petals हैं, यहाँ पे you can add in more dark, and उससे और like once it dries properly, उसके ऊपर you make more strokes with the dark, and then just with a clean brush you just blend it out. जैसे पोलन ग्रेन भी थोड़ा ना, पोलन ग्रेन के पीछे भी ज्यादा डार्क है, तो जस्ट कि योर पेंटिंग इज टू ब्लेंडेड. प्रॉब्लम ये है योर पेंटिंग. और उसके ऊपर भी यू कैन मे बी यू कैन फिक्स इट मोर विद पोस्टर पेंट्स बाद में, बिकॉज वैसे भी डजंट रियली मैटर. यू कैन फिक्स इट विद पोस्टर पेंट्स. उससे इट विल गेट इजियर फॉर यू टू फिक्स, एंड यू विल गेट टू नो कि प्रॉब्लम्स कहाँ पे आई थी, एंड यू कैन ऑलवेज टेक्स्ट मी.
हाँ.
और कुछ पोलन ग्रेन्स तो बनाए नहीं, वो बना लो.
हाँ, बनाने हैं अभी. कोई नहीं, बाद में
Still it's
फिर
looking pretty.
खाएंगे हम.
हाँ जी.
थैंक
I'm
यू.
saying still it's looking pretty.
Yeah, it's even like I love the strokes. Strokes बहुत सुंदर आए हैं.
Yeah.
They're actually looking really good.
हेलो.
Okay, so anybody else who wants to show their painting, and we can just maybe try and fix it. All right, now, do you want me to use the leftover 20 so minutes, or should we end the workshop here?
Yeah, I think we should continue with 20 more minutes. Maybe we
Okay.
can decide on a samosa recipe.
Sure. I have a rose with me. I mean, on my mind, and I can tell you how to paint that kind of rose. It's like मैंने जो कल वीडियो भेजी थी, I sent बहुत simple से flowers. It's like those flowers are like really quick flowers. तो वैसा ही I have another one. So if you want to know that technique, I can tell you.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so let me just switch the page. Okay, so this is another flower that I painted, and इसमें जो सुमति दीदी ने गलती की है इसमें भी यही हुई थी, because it's like too blended और यहाँ पे strokes कम है. मतलब strokes दिख रहे हैं but ज़्यादा ही blend हो गया. So okay, I'm just gonna show you that I'm talking about. You just need two colors. Depth अपने take like a mediumish brush. I'm going to take this 8 number brush क्योंकि इसकी tip थोड़ी सही है और मोटी. And what you're going to do is you're going to take a very काफी थोड़ा ज़्यादा paint लेना है अपने brush पे. I am taking this orange paint. And you're just going to make one shape.
Kriti,
Yes.
I think everyone should mute their videos because बीच में कुछ disturbance आ रही है. I think
just-
only your, yeah, I mean, I'd request everybody to mute their videos. I mean, audios. Getting
Yeah.
my point?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll just mute everyone. I'll also, yeah. Okay. So everyone's muted now. All right. So for this one, this little rose that we're making, it's all you have to do is work with the C strokes. Okay. You just have to create C's. So we're just going to create एक C ऐसे, और उसके around I can make another C. I can make another C, and then I can make another C. ऐसे, and then I'm going to wash off my brush, and I'm going to slightly touch the tip, और वो सिर्फ like the water is going to flow into it, and it's going to get created itself. तो इसमें depth पानी और पेंट अपने आप create कर रहे हैं. We're not even like doing it. तो थोड़ा सा I'm just going to use a little bit more orange here, and then it's like यहाँ पे actually these are like थोड़ी ज़्यादा मुझसे मोटे strokes बन गए. Hold on, I'll do it again. you know, like a very small C and then a bigger C. It's like inverted C's. And then we put in some water and make the paint thoda sa diluted. And then strokes also get thicker. And then if you like make this on a card or something like that, it's just going to look very beautiful. Okay, so this is our rose. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of green. And I'm just going to maybe make some leaves. तो ये थोड़ा अंदर चला गया वैसे just like try to keep your brush away from the water. And you know, if this is like a cluster of these if you have like a cluster of these kind of roses in different colors, it looks really, really pretty. I'm just gonna make it essay. And if I want to, I'm gonna make another purple rose here. Like 2-3 roses ही होते हैं ना तो वो अपने आप में बहुत सुंदर लगने लग जाते हैं. I'm playing with 2 things here. I'm playing with the water and I'm playing with the pressure of the brush. तो जितना हम बाहर जा रहे हैं उतना पानी ज़्यादा and the pressure is also increasing. These are like very, very quick roses, but very simple and very beautiful. And then maybe just make the leaves. Another way you can do it is, मतलब जैसे you know, if you're making like a card something, you can actually make these kind of lavender shapes और उसके लिए कुछ नहीं करना. All you have to make is a stroke. वहाँ पे थोड़े से dots randomly add करो like this. And put some water के drops उसके ऊपर. And you have some beautiful, मतलब you know, if you play around with these और एक अच्छा सा pattern, you can think of a color scheme and you can just use it anywhere. These are very, very simple flowers and I love them. मतलब देखो ना, एक तरफ we have made like 3-4 flowers in like 5 minutes or something, and this was made in like 2 hours. So both can be used in different places as you wish. So I think we're done with today's workshop, and it was amazing having you all here. Just a second, I'm sorry, yeah, some technical difficulties, but it was amazing having you all here, and thank you so much for coming and learning, and I really hope that this was a helpful session and a fun one.
Yep. Yes, very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
See you super soon.
Yes. Bye.
And you should do such things quite often.
Yes, I'm planning to do them.